Greetings, Warlords. Rodge here. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. We are joined by Tristan once again. Tristan, how's it going?
Going great. How are you?
Good. So we talked earlier this summer and can't think about what faction or what we were talking about. It's been a whirlwind.
Iberians, actually.
Iberians. Okay, cool. But you are a man of many armies and many sweetly painted armies as well. So this is a showcase, Warband showcase video, and you've got a few different warbands, but you wanted to talk about the Sassanids in particular. Why did you want to talk about this warband rather than some of the other ones? Just curious.
Yeah, so I mean, as most of the people in the audience, I guess, I've painted not just one warband. I think I have now like 5 or 6. And I think Sassanids are actually, they might be my favorite one when it comes to painting style, but also they're very diverse, I think, in the way that I painted them. Also in the nature of the warband, they're pretty diverse with different units, unit types, and so on. I really like playing them recently. Played them a lot now, and well, like in the second half of 2024. And yeah, so really one of my favorite warbands now.
Awesome. Yeah, so we've got the photo stream going here. People are just seeing the photos in the background as we chat here. And what was the initial idea or inspiration to start the warband?
Yeah, so I remember you had once the video, I think, with Monty, where you also discussed like why do you choose a warband? What is the approach you have? Like for some people, I think it's more like they check on, how's the battle board going and so on. I think that's maybe not usually my top priority. I usually need to have like an idea of how I want to paint a warband in mind. So it's about maybe being inspired by specific color schemes or specific techniques I want to try, specific model lines that just came out or something like that. And usually that's kind of the spark from where I then start building and really think about, okay, which warband fits to this idea. And it was the same for the Sassanids as well, because Sassanids are, I mean, when Age of Invasions came out, I also was thinking, okay, which warband to choose there. And Sassanids are probably the most exotic one, I would say. Even maybe, well, one of the most exotic ones in whole saga, just because of where they're from. Very colorful, like in many ways the contrast to the dark ages, especially.
Definitely, yeah, especially for the Invasions book there. You know, to some extent, 4 or maybe even 5 of those factions could, you know, in some fashion, the models could be interchangeable.
Yep.
At least with the Levy and the Warriors. So at least the Huns are distinct, and then these guys for sure. So as you were thinking about them, decided to pull the trigger. Did you look at the different ranges out there? I believe Aventine has some Sassanid Persians.
Yes.
But I guess apart from that, do you know any others? Or looks like, I mean, people are seeing you chose Reconquer Designs.
There might be some new designers that do 3D files. I'm not aware of that. What happened maybe in the last month? I have to say that also the Reconquer ones are usually more for Arabic factions. So I have to maybe confess at the beginning that I'm not as serious maybe as some others are with historic accuracy sometimes. So you can debate that. I actually, when I planned the warband, and I was like maybe think, okay, should I go with these, some of the Arabic models from Reconquer Design, which are probably, more intended to be Moorish or, Saracens or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this entire range, but the Iberian Peninsula, is kind of the
that's more the
focus
focus
of his stuff. And maybe, I think I have seen like Fatimid, I believe that's, different style of cavalry, or Seljuks even out towards, the Middle East area. But anyways.
I'd actually then also asked, for instance, on your Discord, because there's some very knowledgeable people when it comes to history for certain ages. So I simply just ask, like, hey, these minis, do you think they can still represent like a faction that is maybe 100-200 years earlier and something like that? And it was a bit of, some said yes, some said no. So it also depends a bit. I think it's a bit tricky because the Sassanids, so they're basically before the Muslims conquered basically the Arabian Peninsula and so on, they were the faction there. So they're like the Second Persian Empire. But obviously, until the Muslims, let's say, took over all that area and then also Africa and so on, I mean, there was also, let's say, probably a period of a bit of transition and so on, so that it makes kind of sense that they also share a bit of maybe their style, especially when I say, okay, maybe I want to really play Sassanids at the end of their reign, at the end of slightly before they were basically conquered.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you think about that empire, it stretched to the west, to the Mediterranean and stuff. And, then you kind of have the Persian highland aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then, whatever, I'm sure to the east of that, towards Afghanistan, or maybe to the northeast, towards the other stands, that depending where that warband is from within that empire, it's going to look quite different.
Yes.
You would imagine. So it's quite, I don't think it's much of a stretch to assume, these are the guys stationed over in Syria or whatever when the Muslim, jihad or whatever kicks off. And, they probably didn't look dissimilar from each other in that particular region. So for me, meets my criteria, but it's pretty low hurdle for me. But the
I think
key
that's
part
also
is
something I really like about Saga, that there's enough space for people that really want to be very accurate when it comes to, historic accuracy, that they really want to be, really look into in this year, which kind of, uniforms these guys were wearing, check for the right shields and all these sort of things. But then I think there's also space for people that are a bit more, let's say that there's a bit more creative space than maybe in some other historic tabletops.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think the key thing is, I mean, clearly you've shown the models love and respect, and you've put in the time and effort on them. So it's really, really tough to have a problem with somebody who gives them the proper respect. So, if they were using something else, just as a counts as type thing, with minimal effort, maybe you would have a problem with it. But so Saga is inspired by history, but not necessarily a historical game. So I would say, these are clearly inspired by history, so they would meet the criteria.
Yep.
All right. So as far as assembling these models or anything, did you try anything new? Have you worked with 3D prints before, or did you print these yourself or acquire them?
Yeah, so I mean, I have to say that it's not all Reconquer Designs. So it's most. Okay. So all the riders, some of the horses are, and I think the levy, these are from Reconquer Designs. And I do not have a 3D printer, so they were all printed. But there are some very good ones that that have the license and they can print them very well. I have someone the go-to person that whenever I need like something 3D printed, I order from him, and never had an issue. And then there is, I think, the horses from the Hearthguard as well as from the Warlord, because at that time, I don't know if there's now, if Reconquer Design has cataphract armor horses, because the Sassanids the Hearthguard can only take cataphract armor on the horses.
Okay.
So I was looking around, okay, I'm not that good with modeling like green stuff and so on, or milliputs. I'm not that good in that. So I was looking around like, okay, I need to find horses which I have, well, first of all, have this armor, but I also have the level of detail that, let's say, fits to the Reconquer Design detail.
Yeah.
And in addition, they also need to fit by, like, that the legs really fit on the horses, because, I mean, with the resin, it's not that flexible and so on, so it's kind of tricky.
Limited, yeah.
And I was quite lucky that, so I was looking around, and then from V&V Miniatures, they have, oh gosh, I think it's Roman cataphracts or something,
there's like
that.
Byzantine cataphracts, kind of. So actually I have those models. I'm using them.
Yeah, and I think
Carthaginian chariots, 1500 years.
They are very nice. And yeah, from those, these are then the horses for the Hearthguard. So I was quite lucky. I was looking around, and yeah, they fit quite perfect. So there's not much adjustment that you need.
That's cool. Yeah, didn't even realize.
If anyone wants to copy that, can recommend it. And
awesome.
In addition to that, so I had it. Actually, I think there's one or two photos in the slideshow. I was looking for elephants. And I mean, there's some elephants from Victrix, but also they do not really then fit the style of the Reconquer ones. And I really wanted to have
elephants.
Exactly. I really wanted to have also. I wanted that the elephants are really centerpieces. I didn't want it that they are too large. Like, it needed to be still realistic. I didn't want it to have like the ones from Lord of the Rings or something.
Yeah, the Mamluks,
But size-wise, I was like, they can really be at the edge of what is realistic, so pretty huge. And I was looking around, and I found a designer. I think he's called Gadget Works, and he has some like Indians and so on. And but there were not many shops that printed them. I found one. They were very, very cheap, and I ordered them. I was like, well, I give it a try.
Sure, yeah.
And I started painting them, but realized that actually the quality was so not good at all.
Oh, no.
And I think in the slideshow, there's one or two photos of where I started, like there's a half-painted elephant or something, where at some point I was like, no, you can see too much these printing layers.
Sure.
And I was like, no, you put so much effort into this. I have to order it from someone that really prints them at high resolution and so on. So I had to order it then again from someone else who was where I think I got the files first, so it was not that cheap then in the end. But yeah, in the end, it was very high resolution, so I was very, very happy with the prints and can recommend those elephants. So I think it's amazing models. The models on top of them, they are, again, I think, Reconquer Design miniatures, like infantrymen or something.
Yeah, one of them is like the priest.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Priest dude.
Exactly.
Or whatever, imam. I got that model as well, so I recognize him with his book.
With the open book, and like you can really see how he's screaming or something like that, and shouting among the battlefield. And yeah, so I was very happy in the end with these elephants. And then the last thing in the army are, the mercenaries. So it was a lot of back and forth, but it's we can maybe talk about later when it's about the army composition. But it's Roman deserters, and these are actually, I think, a kitbash from Victrix models.
Okay, yeah. Had to look about them when they popped up.
I think it's Saxons, and then they have the Roman shields, and then some other bits I had flying around for maybe an arm with an axe or bow or something like that, but it's all Victrix parts as far as I remember.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Wow. So that's the models. So as we get on to the painting, why did you choose the colors that you did there? And I have to say, I do really like the color scheme. Anything with purple,
Yeah,
purple man through and through. So loving the purple there, and then that kind of aqua blue.
Yes.
Turquoise. Is that a blue or a jade green, or what's the actual paint?
I think it's a. I think I need to check actually on the name of the colors. I think it's called a green. But
okay. Yeah, there's some like kind of overlap there.
Yeah, exactly.
With like the blue,
it's like a
greens,
turquoise,
aqua.
greenish. Yeah.
But it's like it's good. It's good color. You don't see it a lot. Because if you're just looking to grab a blue or something, you wouldn't normally grab that one. So you kind of have to like deliberately want to use that color, and it's just great with the purple. But how did you settle on that? Was there any other test schemes or alternate colors we might have seen with these guys?
So usually when I start a warband, I'm thinking a lot actually. So there's a lot of thoughts put into, okay, which colors I want to choose, like what kind of color combination and so on can work. And I think I was just inspired basically by other painters out there. So not from Saga, I think, because this color combination usually, it does not often exist, because with all these Western European warbands, they usually don't have these kind of colors.
I would agree, yeah. It is like more kind of a fantasy.
Yeah,
inspired.
Exactly.
You would see Warhammer models, for example.
So I cannot tell you exactly where. I mean, there's some out there. I don't know if it's from Warhammer or what kind of models. I check. I mean, there were several painters that I follow and so on, and I saw this theme once or twice, and I saw really like, okay, this really works together. Like this purple and then this, I don't know, bluish greenish color. It's just a great combination. So I really wanted to have that as the main colors in the warband. And I was thinking, okay, which other colors quite fit to that? And first I was going again, like in my Spanish warband, I have a lot of beige.
Okay.
And this color usually works anyway. I'm very familiar with it, how to paint it and so on. And I thought like, okay, that's a good kind of neutral color that you need, that you can use again and again, to not make it, too chaotic. And then here and there I added, depending on the unit, a bit of red, a bit of normal blue,
saw that,
brownish colors. But this green and purple is basically what kind of unites it, I would say.
Yeah, I would say the white too, on everything, and that kind of lightish brownish.
Yeah,
just between it all. And the red is kind of just a real subtle red. Looks really good. Did you try any new techniques or for the painting?
Yeah, a bit.
Kind of tried and true.
I really wanted to take my time. That's kind of the first thought I had when I had the thought about, okay, I want to start a new warband. I already had some. Usually you can play Age of Invasions also with other factions, like from Age of Vikings or something, so on. So I was not, I don't know, I didn't have to hurry or something to finish that warband. So I really thought, okay, I want to take my time, especially with the Hearthguard, the elephants, and so on. And so techniques, I mean, it's not that I created something completely new there, but I tried to paint or to improve my techniques when it comes to paint textiles and fur. So especially with the horses, I try to really put a bit more effort into the fur, that there's a bit of kind of that you can see the hairs a bit. Well, obviously you cannot see the single hairs, but you really create kind of texture just by the way that you use your brush, the brush strokes and so on. And with textiles or cloth, it's the same. It's like think that was the Warband where when it comes to the highlights, I sometimes try to, well, really paint the structure of the textile, kind of make kind of squares and so on, and single lines to imitate a bit that it's a textile, to not just by colors and by highlights, and obviously the design of the miniature or this part of the miniature, but also by the way how you paint it with the brush strokes, that it gives that you can more identify it as, well, textiles.
Okay. Wow. Looks good. I think it was a success.
I'm pretty happy with it. And so as I said, and the other thing actually I remember now is, so at some warbands before I already started to paint like the spears and so on, that you can really see the wood, the structure of it,
kind of like the
and
grain
the patterns
or something.
And with that one, I remember with the elephants that how is it called, the howdah, these platforms.
Yep.
That there you you really had to paint it basically, that it looks like something, that you have this wood pattern in there that really looks like boards and all together. So there were some different approaches.
So the howdahs, they were just basically like a flat texture.
Yeah, the surface is basically kind of like flat. I think of both.
Just like a box, kind of.
Or actually to check at least of one of them.
Okay. Oh, looks good. Can't tell that it's just kind of an unadorned.
Yeah, but surface. I regret that decision, I think, at the end of, or like when I was like 60-70% done, because it's just such a boring thing to do.
Yeah.
But in the end, it was worth it, I think. But it's very tedious, and
you won't do it again. But you're happy with the final results on these ones.
Won't paint the third elephant.
Awesome.
So and then like what I always like is painting shields, painting freehands. So these things I like in general, and I try to improve warband by warband. But I always like to be like, I feel like shields and like banners and all these sort of things, they always give like a lot of creative freedom, because you can choose like, okay, which kind of design you want to go there. Do you try some sort of freehand? So I always like to paint those, and it's actually probably the part I enjoy the most is painting shields, I would say.
What about the big blanket on one of these elephants? Was that design on there that you were painting?
And no, because in when you buy the file, it actually has this design, but I don't know, it's like a micrometer. I don't know how thin this layer actually is, and the issue was that even though the print was such a high resolution, and I could see that it's really, really great print, that at some sides, depending on how the folds are, like if it's more folded the folds are more in the direction of the back, I think, or the front, it basically disappeared. So I had to continue often like the design of it.
Hold it out, look at the front, look at the back, look at the front.
Exactly.
I think there's like a little loop here, and like interesting. Because I see the armored one, not knocking it or anything, but there's a white blanket, and it's just a white blanket. It's not a fancy.
Yeah, that's like
a fancy one with a design on it, like his buddy does. So I can see that. So
also that blanket I just painted once, and actually on the print that failed, I made like half of it, I think. So I painted it like 1.5 times, and I will not paint it another time.
You're like, done. No more.
No, that's enough.
Awesome. All right, let's get to the basing there. How did you achieve this look?
Actually, the bases are super simple. It's a sand color from Vallejo, so I use almost all my colors are from Vallejo.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a sand color, then it's 2 dry brushes, like brighter sand color, and then like the bone color or something. So it's very, very, very easy to do, and then it's like 2 or 3 sorts of tufts in there.
So the base is just like sand or something you glued on
there?
Yeah,
it's just wood glue and then sand. There's the issue that 3D printed miniatures, as great as they are, but they're often a bit fragile. And then there's often the issue, how to glue them on the bases sometimes, especially when you have like horses or I don't know, a miniature just with 1 leg or something on the base and so on. So I try to often drill and pin them a bit, and then I use a bit of milliput to raise a bit the surface basically of the base, and something where you can basically drill into, just not much, like I don't know, 2 millimeters or something, just to give it a bit more strength. And then it's just sand over there, and then very easy actually to do these bases, I would say.
Yeah, they look really good.
Everybody and they're also they also stand out a bit because it's like against all the other Age of Invasions one, these are usually no one has like completely desert bases because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, just kind of does just like a nice contrast. But just anytime you do kind of like a desert style base, it seems like a nice contrast to the models, especially if people doing forest or whatever. It can just get really busy with rocks. Little tufts and flowers and everything else. So just these are just kind of minimalist, and the kind of that yellow contrast or color contrast nicely with the models,
exactly.
Especially the purple and that bluish greenish color.
I think when the model itself is already pretty colorful, I think it's good usually to have very simple bases that are kind of monotonous, but at least not that complex with a lot of colors or something like that. And it's also a very good way. Well, I like to have very uniform armies usually, but bases are anyway a very good approach to bring an army together when you have like very good simple bases. When the style is very uniform of the bases, that just brings the whole army way more together. You can see, that's one army that's not like different warbands put together or something. Like it just makes it way more uniform and
it really ties it together. For sure. All right, so on the basing, the modeling, we've already established you wouldn't want to do the wood grain again, but just now that if you're planning to add more here, but after going through the process there, is there anything that you would have done differently, or anything like you're never gonna try again on a different warband, anything like that?
I think with each project there are some parts that you think that you kind of, I don't know, you nailed this area, and with others where you think, well, you could improve that one, you're not that happy maybe with. I think normal with all of my warbands, it's like that. So, and I would say that with the levy, especially with the bow levy, I was not that happy how they turned out. I think they are still looking fine, but they're, I think with the highlights there, that one I could improve, like with the highlights on the cloth.
Sure.
So they're a bit boring, and I think sometimes I should push the contrast a bit more. I tend to be, there's some people that paint very, I don't want to call it aggressive, but they have very, very strong contrast, like they have very strong highlights, very dark shadows and so on.
Are you attacking me right now, Tristan?
No, no, and not you. But even if it's actually just another way how to paint.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of the opposite often. I try to actually change that sometimes, like on purpose. Okay, now put a bit more, like add another highlight, make it even brighter and so on. Because it may look good like when you go very close, when it looks a bit more realistic, but on the table, it usually works sometimes, or it sometimes at least works better when you have a bit like stronger highlights and so on.
Yeah,
So
100% agree. I'm kind of maybe over optimize my painting a lot of times to look good from like 6 inches from my face. And especially on my like Carthaginians and stuff, I ended up kind of redoing or kind of changing the highlighting just because, I was happy with them. But once I got them to the table, I was like, that's not like the kind of impact that I wanted them to have once I played a game with them. So I ended up going back and messing around with the horses.
Oh, really?
In particular, just the highlighting and just some different things there. So yeah, absolutely that balance of up close or far away. If you want to look good at both of those distances, it can be a real challenge. So you kind of just got to know what you want to optimize for and kind of shoot for that,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some already know or are very good in that. I know of myself that usually I should just add one highlight more than I think is right. That's then in the end better, actually.
Absolutely. All right. Now, you are a European fellow, so not as necessarily steeped in that display board culture of the Americas here.
No.
Do you have but you do, I mean, you like taking photos here, so you just kind of have like a black backdrop. So I'm guessing you don't really have a display board for these or any plans for a backdrop or anything like that.
No, not really. So in the let's say European Saga scene, at least the tournaments I know, I don't know if there was ever, well, there's sometimes people that have, there's one or two people I think that have like these boards, but it's not common at all, I would say. I'm a bit jealous actually when I see these cool display boards on the Discord, like from people in the US, when they go to the tournaments and have these super nice terrain and so on that fits perfectly to the bases, and it's great to see. But on the other hand, I'm kind of happy because that would also require to put so many hours of work into. So maybe it's good that we have not started that trend yet. Maybe it will come over in some month, years, I don't know, but not yet.
Even back Warhammer times in the mid 2000s, it had that same dynamic. Where in the Americans, for whatever reason, I don't know, we're not usually taking public transport to events, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I don't foresee that really changing much. But I'm with you. I'm not super into display boards myself. Usually, put a lot of effort into the Warband, and I'm just finishing it for a tournament or something. So now to ask me to go the extra mile and build a whole little diorama and stuff, I just never really has been something that I've been in. I do have a goal kind of for this year for myself to just for my finished warbands to kind of go back and build something out. And for me, a lot of it is about taking cool photos and stuff. I think that the backdrop is really neat for that. So it's kind of a dual purpose for me. But I hear you. It's another 20% of your time and effort on top of the army, just trying to finish a display board as well.
Yeah, actually, I've thought about doing it one, but not for actually bringing it to a tournament or something, but more just to have it here at home, like to do where you can where you can really put your figures nice into, I don't know, you're like behind me or something, like to put some nice terrain in there. Maybe that really fits perfectly to the left and right. Maybe also to the Warband or something. I had that idea once. Maybe at some point I will do so. But for tournaments, I would never bring one. I think.
Well, that's true. Yeah. And so the stuff that I'm kind of thinking about too is kind of that multi-purpose where where it's not just attached to the board, but I can use it in, if I have like a fortress in ruins or something, a little tower, but I can pull it off the base and I can use it in my games, like at home, kind of just having extra sweet terrain for home as well is kind of like another potential way to look at it. So like if you had a cool, just think, if you had a cool desert board and you come on over to Tristan's house and you got the whole setup and everything, it's like that could be pretty cool,
That's true. I mean, we are thinking about some in a club here in the city where I live, in a tabletop club, and with a very active saga scene there. So we have a bunch of terrain there, but we always have in mind the thought like to maybe really do like a desert table or something like that.
Yeah.
So it would fit to the warbands I like to play from the south usually. So maybe that's a project for the next month, maybe for 2025. Who knows?
So not something specific for tournaments, but just a nice multi-purpose backdrop could be useful. So all right, maybe we'll see that at some point. But so were you playing games as these were being built? Did you like and kind of dialing what troops you wanted to use, or did you paint a bunch and then use them on the tabletop and be like, why did I paint this? I don't know.
Yeah, so I made some games, I think 1 or 2 in the tabletop simulator, and then also in the process of painting. So there were some units where I was kind of sure that I want to include them. Like I knew that there needs to be at least 1 elephant or 2. I also wanted to include at least 1 unit of Hearthguard and the Warlord, of course. So there were some units that were like, maybe not auto takes, but you knew, they make sense to have at least. I think we had several games like with a friend of mine from the club. We had some games actually before the German Grand Melee trying to experiment, okay, what's the best composition for this warband? And we were kind of struggling, feeling like, okay, they try to push you into mounted warriors with composite bows, but are they actually that good? Like, do you need that many?
Sure,
and in the end, I was quite happy that I just painted 8. And I feel like, I mean, at least the way I play them, you do not really need more.
Okay.
So I was happy that I did not start painting more, because obviously, I mean, painting horses takes so much time sometimes, and it's also quite monotonous. And happy that I didn't paint it more horses than I have now.
I could see that. It's a combined arms style warband with some shooting, a little bit of the elephant, or maybe the Hearthguards for hitting power. I don't know if they're really interchangeable or not, but then you have one ability, your dudes can get off the horse and shoot in a fashion with long range. So you could see, you could kind of tweak that or load up one of those more than the other, perhaps. And, a lot of that will probably just come down to your personal preference. Maybe, a lot of people would have the same 3 or 4 points, and then the last point or 2 or 3 are kind of just depending on the person, how they like to play. So, so would you say the warband meets your expectations on the battlefield?
Yeah, pretty much. In the games I had, the tournaments they performed well. They might not be the strongest one, but they can definitely compete with most of the other warbands in Age of Invasions and Age of Vikings. Cool. So I was pretty happy. I mean, it's always cool to also play Elephant. Always nice to, run with him into something to kill. I don't know. Best obviously is a mounted warlord or something. Always fun.
Yeah.
And
how does it match up against the Romans? Either the invasion Romans or the last Romans? Is it a good matchup, or kind of stacked one way or the other?
So I think it's quite a fair matchup, actually. we figured out, I think, that it's funny that the Manu Ballista actually, you may think that it's good against elephants, but it's not, because it's one model.
Yeah.
So it doesn't,
Poink.
yeah, it doesn't really, so you can just run straight with the elephant to this Manu Ballista, and
Nice.
that's not really worth shooting at him. I had just 2 games against them, and I think it's a pretty fair matchup. The Warband struggles a bit with shooting, that's the issue, and they're also quite slow. So that's usually not a good combination, being slow and not good, not having good defense against shooting. So against some Warbands you struggle, especially when the scenario is not that like objective based.
Sure.
But yeah, these are then, I mean, sometimes you have good matchups, sometimes you don't. That happens with all Warbands. And yeah.
So when did you start the Warband, and when did you finish it? I would say, at least to, what we have photos for here.
So I think I started with them when that was 1.5 years ago, I would say. That was when I initially started with them, like really started painting the first units. But then for the Grand Milli, the German Grand Milli, it was in November, I think. And I was thinking, okay, at first I was like, okay, I want to play 2 points of levy, but I thought like, no, it doesn't make sense. You don't have multi-activations. You always need these uncommons. It doesn't work like exactly in the turn when you want to activate them, not just once. You don't roll any uncommons or something. So
yeah,
that's classic. So 1 is enough. And then I decided, okay, I think you need to have some mercs and some. I was looking for mercenaries that are, how you can say that you can just leave alone, basically. You don't need to,
self-sufficient.
Yeah, exactly. That you don't need to activate them much. They don't rely on the other units. You can just leave them alone, basically, and they can hold objectives. They can maybe that also have some form of or a rule that they can activate themselves, so they can at least activate to shoot for free, which is already good, because you need a lot of dice with these boards just for activating your units, and you don't want to also put a lot of dice to activate also the mercs and so on. So often I could just place them in some terrain, kind of hold an objective or something. In the first 1 or 2 rounds I activated them sometimes, and from then on they could just hold close ranks. When they were in terrain, they were even saving against shooting on 2s, I think, which is ridiculous. And
that's nice.
Yeah, so definitely a good choice for the Warband, I would say.
Okay, so that is maybe, trying to think of the time frame there, but maybe
that was
a year and like 3 months, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, probably I painted like 4 or 5 months initially, or 6.
Okay.
And then I finished them like before the Grand Milli, but that was just like maybe a month or something. I painted the deserters mainly, and I think I added the shields to the Hearthguard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe like 6 or 7 months of effort.
Yeah, in total.
Spread over
a
year and a half period. So when you were working on these, you were like just working on these?
Usually that's the case.
When
usually it's like one project after the other. It's rare. I mean, I had 1 or 2 warbands that I painted after the first, the first bunch of figures, and then the deserters. But usually I paint 1 warband from start mostly to finish before starting another one, because I don't know, I came up with the whole palette of colors and all these thoughts I put into it.
Yeah, you get all those paints sitting out, and now you want to mix in like a new selection of bottles.
Yeah, they're all at the front of my desk now, and when I change the project, they go to the back again, and I need to find them again, and so on. So yeah. So some form of laziness, I guess.
Yeah, don't half-ass 2 things. You got to whole-ass 1 thing.
Exactly.
A wise man once said. All right, so is this warband done, would you say? Do you have any plans for more mercs or variations or trying to, you could probably turn this into maybe Saracens might be the closest, if you were so inclined. But what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think it's finished. There might be the personal champion, which could also be a good take instead of the deserters. But no, I think I'm very happy, unless there's maybe, I don't know, an FAQ or something, or I don't know, they change the rules for them, and then you need a completely different army composition. And it's the 3 elephants, maybe, who knows? But no. Besides that, there's no further plans. I already have let's say Arabic factions, like the Moors and
so that's
with the Tavians on. I have them, so no need to expand further with this color scheme into that.
Cool. Well, it's nice, yeah, to have a unique warband like this. And yeah, there probably will be an invasions fac at some point. It's never, it hasn't gotten one yet. It's been a few years, so whether there'll be big or small changes remains to be seen. But yeah, there's potential there. But that's cool. Yeah, I think you should be very proud of what you've accomplished with these guys. I think it's a great looking warband.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I think it's among the best that I've painted so far, and still when I look at them, I'm pretty happy with almost all miniatures there. So yeah.
Okay. Are you a keeper of warbands, or do you have like a little Monty blood in you? You would
you mean like
potentially sell these or something?
You think that's my 5th Sassanid warband or something?
Yeah. That's how they look so perfect, because this is the 5th, the 5th version.
No, it's I usually keep all the warbands. I have never sold warbands so far, so no.
All right, cool. Well, how many painted warbands do you have?
I think like 6. Yeah, I mean, maybe a bit more. I have these Arabic factions for Age of Crusade, which are like 3.
Sure, yeah. So there's a difference between how many battle boards you have covered versus painted distinct warbands. So you have about 6 distinct painted
let's
warbands?
Say I think it's like 6 army projects, like that have each project having kind of a similar style and so on.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, these turned out great. You've got some other ones in the works that we could probably take a look at sometime in the future. I would love to chat about those. The Spartans in particular there. Are you done with the Spartan project?
I'm pretty much done with it. I always thought about making some objective markers maybe for them. I have the models for those here, but yeah, the warband itself is finished. And yeah, if there's interest, we can talk in the future maybe about those as well.
Okay, yeah, those are a beast unto themselves as one painter. Who knows how long it takes to paint things. I appreciate the effort you put in there. I know exactly how many hours you spent working on those. So definitely feel your pain there, but the result's good. But anyways, for these guys here, if you folks at home have any comments about anything as far as the techniques we described, what colors, people always want to know exactly what Vallejo color you used and stuff like that, feel free to comment below. Sure, Tristan will chime in, or I'll ping him and get the answers and comment myself. Quite an amazing warband. Thank you for coming on. We had
thank you for having me.
Slew of technical difficulties at first, so I appreciate your patience and sticking it out here. I think people are really going to enjoy this video and the deep dive on these Sassanid Persians. So, all right. Well, that's going to be it for now, folks. We'll let you go. All right. We'll talk to you later. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.